American troops in Baghdad, they have struggled to secure the city for 3.5 years now. Still, a Wild West atmosphere prevails, and that's one reason U.S. forces are still there in high numbers. Right now, an estimated 138,000 U.S. troops are in Iraq, about the same number that went into the country in 2003. Many troops are on extended deployments. The Army called more than 13,000 reservists back to active duty last year. The Pentagon will soon send thousands of Marines for another tour. The surprise reactivation turns life upside down for military families. Meredith Leyva is a Navy wife who knows all about that. She is the author of Married to the Military, and she also moderates what I think is a fascinating online community about 900,000 military wives and women in uniform. And it is called, Meredith, tell us the name of your website.
It's called synchouse.com.
And what's that for?
Military jargon for Commander-in-Chief of the House, i.e. a military spouse, yes.
So one might be going off to war, but we know who's running the place at home.
You bet. And running the show, running the base operation, so to speak, for the service members, plus holding down our jobs and running the family.
Very good. And then you get to add the website on top of that. Tell us what you're seeing on your website, because I know chat is a big part of it. It's a place where spouses feel they can come online and share their feelings.
Well, absolutely. With 65% of military service members today married, you have a lot of military spouses who have been through a lot over the last 5 years since 9/11. And the deployments have been back to back to back, with most families on their third or fourth deployment. And these are not your standard 6-month tours with 18 months home. These are 9 months out, 6 to 9 weeks back at home, and then another 9 months out with no shore tours and no port calls. Additionally, Army folks are seeing typically a 15-month deployment. So it's really been a very difficult 5 years for military families.
Let's look at some of the postings that have appeared on your website, synchouse.com. Pankara writes, "I'm not freaked anymore. I hate them," the tours she's referring to, "but whining and crying isn't going to get me anywhere, so we just enjoy all the time we have together until he goes again." That to me seems a sense of acceptance. This is from Izzy. She writes, "It doesn't matter how many times I hear about a new round of deployments, it always leaves me with a sinking feeling in my stomach. I know the men and women signed up for it, but it's still not something you want to deal with." Couple questions there. First of all, are those pretty representative of what we see on the website?
Very much so.
And second of all, in terms of the frustration level, have you noticed a change in that in recent months?
Well, it's very typical in the sense that, yes, we have volunteered for military service. This is an all-professional force, but we're being treated like a draftee service. And
now, I see that in some of the articles. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, back in Vietnam and even World War II, you know, the Army could draft in some guy off the street and send him out for a year, and it didn't matter whether he had a family or personal commitments or anything. And typically, actually, those folks were back within the end of the year. Today, we have an all-volunteer service. These are professional service members, and the folks who are in the military now are really the hardened troops who want to be there. But we signed up on the basis of that there would be some time with our families. Most of us have 2 small children under the age of 6.
Which includes
so
you.
When you're yeah, myself included. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. And so when you're talking about a 15-month deployment, you're talking about my children's lifetimes away. And that's become very difficult now that we're on our 5th, you know, just finishing up our 5th year of war.
And 2 questions here. One, this is not to say, or let me just put it that, is this to say that the people, the women, the spouses who write in don't support what's happening in Iraq or don't support the people who are doing service there? It's a different conversation.
It's actually very interesting, and Senator McCain's recent comments have been very enlightening and almost a relief, because it used to be that if you criticized anything about the tactics or the strategy in engaging the war, it was the same thing as criticizing the mission. Those are 2 very different things. Most service members want to finish out the mission in Iraq. The question is, how do we do it? And at this rate of deployments, we are, after 5 years, we're running our troops into the ground.
What kind of advice do you give on the website to spouses going through this?
Well, first of all, make a lot of friends, because you're not only going to need those friends to talk about these issues to come up, to talk about things like, why is my 3-year-old acting this way, but you'll also find a lot of emergency babysitters among your friends.
There's support out there.
Yes, because those emergencies are going to happen, and your family support group is there for you. But there's also groups like Operation Homefront that can provide that emergency assistance that you'll inevitably need during a deployment. I mean, whenever my husband deploys, I guarantee you the roof is going to leak, the car is going to break down. And Operation Homefront gets the support of the community to help out military families in those times of crisis, so service members aren't focused on the crisis at home, they're focused on the dangerous task at hand.
We'd love to ask you a personal question, because as I was looking over your website, which is so well organized and a great resource this morning, I was thinking, what kind of response do you get? I mean, aren't military wives, you're a Navy wife, aren't you supposed to be silent and just supporting? Good luck.
Wilting flowers.
Yeah,
that's going to happen.
And stereotype, but do you get any kind of pressure to, put a lid on it, or good for you? What kind of response do you get for doing a project like this?
Oh, great question. In the old days, you did have a lot of, forgive me, a lot of World War II era spouses pining away at home, very quiet. But today's military spouses work outside the home. We have professional and personal ambitions of our own. And in fact, about 50% of service members are reporting that spouses earn as much or more than the service member. So you're not going to see a lot of wilting daisies in this day and age.
A lot of fascinating women, and there's resources there for men too, I would assume, if they are the spouse that is on the other half. Great. It's cinchouse.com, C-I-N-C, house, one word, .com. Meredith Leyva, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Erin.
Fascinating site. Thank you.